what kind of food do you like? And you say meat. I mean, like, okay, it doesn't mean anything, right? What the courses enable you to say is, oh, I like tacos, versus I like dim sum, right? So writing or saying I want to do business is too broad, because that's like saying I like meat or I like vegetables. Also, going to graduate school is there are English majors that go to. There's actually more than you would think. English majors that go and get medical degrees. There are math majors that become lawyers. There are history majors that go into business. It's that. Remember earlier I was talking about the intersection of things. You take the prerequisite courses, the ones that I just said. You take in order to go to business school, micro, macroeconomics, finance, accounting, and you just take those 8 classes. And then you can take whatever else you want. So that's not a major. Those are just, you take the prereqs. So then if you go and take these things, then you go that way, right? So you don't necessarily, it's not, if you're not in these classes, you won't have it. So I'll give you an example. Stanford, about a decade ago, Stanford is one of the top 10 computer science schools, right? Mostly because they invented a lot. About 10 years ago, they got rid of their straight CS degree. And they differentiated them all to being intersectional degrees. So you can get CS in writing, you can get CS in biology, you can do CS in the arts. Because they have no interest in building coders. Because coders you buy in Bangladesh, Brazil, and Mexico. Engineers, CS engineers, you can buy anywhere. And you all should probably know that because you live in San Francisco. And remember about 2 or 3 years, right after the pandemic, all the CS companies fired a bunch of people. They laid off 45,000 people in San Francisco, and they were all entry-level CS coders. Because they were expensive. They were paying them, $170,000 a year, $190,000 with benefits, and they figured out that I can get them for $50,000 a year with benefits, with more experience in Bangladesh, Mexico, and Brazil, and so they fired all of those things. So the CS bubble popped. By the way, if you want to, you should. This is why there's high housing crisis. This is why, downtown, a lot of businesses left. I mean, why San Francisco is struggling right now. So, about 10 years ago, Stanford, Rice, Urbana-Champaign, MIT, all those schools were like, we don't want to build coders. We want to build Bill Gates, right? We want to build the people who have the ideas that hire coders to make, because those are the people who are change makers, right? The people who can run companies, or the people who can come up with good ideas is who they want. Particularly, it started at Pitzer and the what they call the 5 C's, the Claremont colleges in Southern California really took this. So when you're looking at colleges, right? Please, 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 do not choose your college based on, oh, my cousin's girlfriend's brother went to Davis and hated it, so I'm not going there. Do you even know your cousin's boyfriend's, whoever I just said, do you even know that person? Right? Or does that person, oftentimes we've discovered when people tell me these stories that person doesn't even exist. Right? It's just rumor. Oh, what else do I hear? Oh, I don't want to go to Riverside because I hear it's boring. Okay, stay here. There are certain things that get said and passed around in rumor that doesn't help you at all, so I would shed all that, right? Or what I hear a lot is that Santa Cruz is a party school versus Irvine is being, it's more conservative, and there's all these things. There's literally 35,000 people there, so it can't be that. Use a little critical thinking when thinking your friend's cousin's boyfriend likes something. You're looking to see whether you like something, right? UCs are larger, so your friend groups will be mostly who lives in your dorm, what clubs you belong to, your study. If you're in a major, like there's like clubs that are associated with those majors. So that's where your friends group. It's harder in some ways to make friends at UC, just because there's just so many people, right? And UCs are not putting money into you making friends. Except for if you're like Waylon or Tracy, in which you get into specialized programs that are for first-gen people or are connected to some sort of scholarship, and then you get opportunities like Waylon. When do you leave for summer break?
The 30th.
Okay, so he will go to school like a month early with a smaller cohort, and he'll have an advisor. And if you can get yourself into those things, it's much easier to get friends. You have to sort of know what you want and be ready for things like classes to be full or majors to be impacted so that you can roll with it, right? Opportunities are harder to find, so make sure that you're on top of that and that you want that, right? Because the worst thing what you don't want to do is go to college and then come back and then sit in your apartment, because the way that you get a job afterwards is the internships that you hold, and not just like I had an internship and I sat there, but like you put up big numbers, you had a project that was yours, and that you have something to show, what we call portfolio, right? That you can show me at the end of your internship that you've had something. That's why Tracy was here the other day, because she's not getting that in her internship, and she came to me to get it. Okay, so when you're looking at these college lists, like, people do things based on the weather. Who cares? Right? Don't make decisions based on the weather. You live in San Francisco. It's freezing here during the summer, and it's, like foggy all the time, and it's damp and cold. So, like, don't say I'm not going to go to, UC Santa Barbara because it's hot. Like, that's dumb, right? My best advice to you is go to the best school you can get into that gives you the most money. Go to the school that gives you the most opportunity that you have to pay the least for. Go to the school that at the end of 4 years, you've got 4 people that can write you strong letters of recommendation, professors that you have relationships with, and that you have in your first summer of your first year had an internship, and your sophomore and junior year internships were fully paid over $20,000 for the summer. That's what you're looking for, right? Because that's the thing at the end that gets you a job in the thing you want to do. You ever see these people that graduate and then, like, their moms are all complaining? It's like, oh, he went to college but he didn't get a job. 9 times out of 10, it's because he just showed up and went to class, right? You want to be in the place where you can get somewhere. By the way, more exciting, more fun. You meet more interesting people. You travel around the world. I went to Vassar College, and well, first of all, you get there and they gave me a room in the dorm room that was the largest room I'd ever lived in. I had a marble fireplace in my freshman dorm room, and my freshman dorm room was, without that part, about the size of this room, and only 2 of us lived. And we had a bathroom that we shared with 4 people. It was like the nicest. I had hardwood floors and a marble fireplace and oak furniture. And I opened my window, I looked out onto a giant quad of Gothic buildings, like going to Hogwarts, right? And then in my second semester, I had a single room that was about the size of this room. I was an RA. I had my own bathroom, and I wasn't paying for any of this. And then in my 3rd year, they give you an apartment that you can select with 4 of your friends, and that has you get your own bedroom, and it has a kitchen and living room and everything. It's just an apartment. It's a 4-bedroom apartment. You share with 4 friends. And then in my senior year, they gave us a house. You could choose a house to live with 6 people or 4 people, and that's just a house, right? So I got an internship in my sophomore year in which they paid for me to get a whole new wardrobe to go to this thing. And then I didn't have a driver's license, so they got me a driver that drove me there 3 days a week. And then in my junior year, I had an internship in New York City, which was an hour away by train. So I got a train pass and a subway pass, and they again gave me clothes to be able to go to it. And then in the next semester, when I had to drive to, I had a driver's license by then, so they gave me a car, a zip car that I could drive wherever I wanted. Oh, and by the time you get to your senior year where you get a house, if you don't have a car, they give you a car for the year so you can get your groceries and go to Costco. Okay, so it seems weird, but is it? Because if I do really well in my internship, right, and I put up some big numbers and I make my college look good and I make money, I'm going to give money back. I've given more to the school than they gave to me. So, and not only that, you end up in the magazine and they can say that you had this internship, and it gets other people, the better candidates, to want to go. By the way, these are like all my best friends I got to live with and that I'm still friends with today. And my professors at Vassar well, most of them have died, but they're still connected to me, and I still will hang out with them. When I go to New York, I have lunch with them. So it's not like this dissipates, right? But that getting that level of experience, it's earned, right? The most committed wins. You earn what you get. So if you put in this much effort, you'll get this much stuff. If you put in this much effort, actually, you'll get more than this much stuff, right? So I think there's a certain amount of risk taking. I had a very famous professor who used to put this thing on his door. I do this now too. And there'd be different numbers of slots, and it was just called "Are You Game?" And he wouldn't tell you where you were going. You just signed up and went, and you just had to have faith it would be something interesting. So signing up on that, I got to go to the Museum of Modern Art and touch a Rembrandt and go behind the scenes and see how they bring the Dutch master paintings and put them on the wall. I went to Sing Sing prison and I taught Macbeth with inmates that were the same age as I was. I went to Broadway and I got to see a Broadway show, and then afterwards meet with the playwright and the stars of the show to talk about how modern day Broadway works. I spent the day with the mayor of New York. What else? I mean, there's just weird stuff. Oh, I went to an orchard and picked apples one day. You never knew what was going to happen, but the point of the thing is to live a life that was worth the time, right? And to change the way that you look at things in the world. By the way, going to prison, the most interesting thing about teaching Macbeth in prison, first of all, Macbeth is such a badass play, right? Lady Macbeth is like my favorite character of all time. But when you are sitting across the table with somebody who's the same age as you, who's in an English program, reading the same book that you're reading in your fancy college, but they're imprisoned and you're not, and the two young men that I work with were both Asian, it just changes the whole way you look at education and freedom. Their only freedom that they had was reading that book with us that day. The rest of it is solitary confinement, four walls. You do what I say, you wear what I tell you to wear, you talk when I tell you to talk. But in that moment, they were free. Do you know what it's like to be in that moment with somebody? I'm like wandering around, I can do whatever I want, but I'm reading the same book and in the same class. But in that moment, for those 6 weeks, I was in their only 90 minutes of freedom. And it just changes the way you look. So anyway, that's what college is like. If you do it right. If you do it right, you'll be in places you never believed you'd be in. With people one of my best friends in undergrad was a Native American young woman. So I was the head of the Asian Student Union, and we would have those freshman panels, you know, when freshmen come on visit days, and all the different groups to hold panels, and we, you know, give a little presentation, and people, the first years get to ask us questions, and we get to invite them to stuff. Oddly enough, it's a kind of predatory and creepy too, because all the boys that are there are kind of looking at the first year girls and like who's cute, and that always bothered me. But anyway, I'm sitting there. This is a panel. It's Black Student Union, Asian Student Union, Latinx students, Indigenous folks, and the queer and trans, and we're all on this panel. We're talking. And for about 2.5 years, none of us liked the indigenous group, because she was blonde-haired and blue-eyed and had grown up in New York City and claimed to be Iroquois, but I don't know what part of Iroquois. So I'm sitting on this stage, and this hand shoots up from the back of the room, and we call on it, and this giant woman stands up. She's like 6'2" woman stands up. Clearly indigenous. This woman looked like she walked out of one of those ads, right? She had the tattoo on her chin and across her face on the front. And this is in the 90s when no one had face tattoos, right? And I'm like, oh shit, here it comes, right? I'm sitting there, and she stands up and she points out at the white woman who was claiming to be Native next to me, and said, yeah, I have a question for you. And I was like, oh, it's gonna get good, it's gonna get good. And I looked, my roommate was the head of the Black Student Union, and I looked over at Self, and Self was like, oh my God, is it happening? And then this woman, her name was Elizabeth, and she said, I wanna know what res you were raised on, who your people are, and all of this stuff, and then it switched into some native language. So I didn't even know what she was saying. And then she was like, and I'll wait. And this white girl next to me is just like freaking out. Well, I come from the Iroquois people, and I believe that da 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 da. And then Elizabeth starts walking towards the stage. So great. And she starts walking, and she was like, I'm sixth generation someplace Cherokee. I am the daughter of Chief so and so. I am the club people, and all this stuff. I was initiated, and she's talking while she's walking. This girl here is like shaking. She's literally shaking. And Elizabeth gets, so we're on the stage, and Elizabeth is here, and this woman is here, and she says, the last thing, she says, my last question, and I only have one more, is why are you the head of the Indigenous Student Organization? She's like, I don't know. And so I'm sitting there, and me and Soph are like, this is the best day ever. Because now we probably don't have to go to meetings with this woman anymore. Elizabeth literally walked up on the stage. And she said, told the little woman, the little white woman, I'd like to join your organization, and I want to talk about leadership. And she looked at us, and we're like, hey, have a seat, sit down. We can't wait to have you here. And that became my roommate the next year. There are people who you will meet and who will come and who will blow your mind. I asked her, hey, how do you take SAT on a res? She's like, I had to drive 6 hours to another school to get here. I said, how did you even know how to get here? I said, how did you even know how to, like, I went to private school, they told me stuff, and it was hard for me being low income, and she's like, oh, yeah, I snuck into, she's like, there is a white private school. My uncle is a janitor there, and they had a college night. And so I went and pretended to be on the janitorial staff. And I went to their college night, and I got all their materials, and I applied from there. I'm like, of course you did, right? There'll be people in college that you don't even know how they got there. Like there was one guy who was there from the Congo, like the deep in the Congo part. I'm like, how how did you, like, why are you here? Like, I'm glad you're here, but how did you